share in either wisdom, story, or logic. And it's clearly amazing to hear all the differing missing links discovered by people unique to their own journeys and in how they have come to discover them. Together, we can help to build a bigger picture for a better future, for a brighter tomorrow. Let's stand united. Let's remove the veils and let's create a new world together. Are you that missing link? Join Jesse Hale on the Missing Link Talk Show as he helps to unveil the mystery through the unique wisdom and store of others.
Welcome everybody here back to the Missing Link. Today we're excited to talk with someone that's an archetype reader, author, coach, trainer, business coach, podcaster, and she's here to share a little bit about her information, what she does, and how she helps people, and anything else she wants to talk about that's going on in the world. So welcome back to the Missing Link Live, Beth Martins. How are you doing today, sister?
I'm really good, Jesse. Thanks for having me on. Yeah, I was excited that this worked out before in Acapulco, and I'd love to share a little on the topic as well about what I'm speaking.
Perfect. So why don't you start off with telling us a little bit about yourself, about, your journey, a little bit about your background, your education, what part of the world you grew up in, what part of the world you're in now, if you'd like disclosing that information, a little bit about your background, who you are as a person for anybody that may have not seen you the last time you were on, or when I was on your show, or, they may be seeing you here for the first time.
Yeah, that was an excellent interview, by the way. I had a lot of fun with that. So thanks for coming on, and people should definitely check that out. I believe it's on your channel as well. Yeah. And so I'm here in the Canadian prairies in the cold. We have our classic almost 6 months of winter and 6 months summer. So we're in the deep freeze right now. It's a bright sunny day. I was born and raised here. It's sort of like, not a sexy place of Canada to come from. It's not considered a very good place. The only thing that I think it really has going for it is that we might be, a little later down the line for the smart city or the something like that. But when the pandemic hit, Jesse, in 2020, I'm like, oh, okay, well, I can see this happening. It was actually just after in Acapulco. I get on the plane to go home, and it's the first time ever I saw anybody in a mask. So there was a handful of people masked on the plane, and I'm like, this will never happen in sleepy Manitoba. And then 2 weeks later, boom, lockdown, everybody. And I'm like, okay, we're on the map, it turns out. So it's an interesting community. There's been lots of freedom rallying and demonstrations and all of that kind of normal stuff that was going on everywhere. And, in a way it promised to pull people together, but maybe it did, maybe just not, it didn't pull me together with it or something like that. I saw people go in a lot of different directions and a lot of different factions and a lot of controlled op. I consider myself I don't know if specialist is too strong a word, but I have an eye on what's the truth. And then there's so much. This is something that's come to my awareness, how we all think that the mainstream, there's Jenny. Hey, nice to see you. We all think the mainstream are so indoctrinated and they believe the news and that those, mastards or whatever that is. But honestly, I am starting to see that the agenda for the alternative community is much bigger. And it's because we have half a brain, or we have some willingness to look and see. And it's actually very similar to my work, which I'll tell you what it is, that people are often willing to go a certain distance and then they draw the line and it's no more. So they could see through the poison injections, but they can't see through ivermectin. And my natural health food groups are promoting and selling this underground. I shouldn't just call them right out like that. And so that's interesting. What led me to this in the first place is nearly 20 years ago, or actually more than 20, almost 25 years ago now, I was diagnosed with a stage 4 lymphoma, and it put an end to life as I knew it. It was a chance to die before I die and take inventory of the whole thing and look at the regrets that I would die with, the purpose and the soul that was trying to bust out of me, but I was trying to be a good person and work with my family and do the right thing by society and also make money, from the selfish side of that I could be independent. And because it almost killed me, I started to change my direction, and that was a big part of the healing, to see what in me was actually cooperating with death, as opposed to just feeling the victim to all the poisonings at every turn, and many people I could blame at that time. But I saw it was useless. I could blame everybody on earth, but I was still dying. So how could I find that inside myself? And I did find that. And I found an enormous pocket of very unhealed rebel energy, also nurture energy I didn't recognize for a lot of years after. But by awakening that, by seeing it, by feeling it, and going through death, not trying to avoid and prevent death, but going through the death of that, even of my body, I thought it was going to be completely lost at one point, surrendered to dying, and discovered that dying is not what we think it is or what we feel it to be by any stretch of the imagination. I thought somehow, I had this unconscious thought, I saw that dying was going to get me out of this conflict I was in my life between my real self and what was being expected of me. And I realized that even dying doesn't get you out of those conflicts. You get yourself out of those conflicts. And that's what I'm talking about this coming week, actually, coming up so fast at Acapulco. I guess on the 17th is my talk, so 1 week today. And the talk is called The Marriage of the Opposites to Dissolve Inner Conflict.
So were you reborn again then?
I was reborn again. Yeah. And then I got born again in the pandemic. And went through all of that. I call it the Christian rabbit hole. This is like not derogatory to anybody, but there's a lot of windy roads that go nowhere, just like a lot of truth topics are very, very similar. And that hijacking of Christianity, but the born again part didn't go away. That reawakening to Jesus, that didn't go away. That's still very much part of me.
So what's your take on the whole plan demonic?
The plan demonic. Yeah, well, I felt often that the controllers didn't know if it was going to work or not. They took their best shot, and it might have been another failed sort of false flag that many were always trying to terrify us. Every time you turn around, there was a comet was going to hit or some new disease was out, and they could make some progress, but they couldn't get the whole world to respond to them. And even this time, they didn't get the whole world to respond to them, but they made it appear as if that did happen. And so it was, Jeff was on here. That was really good. He won't come on my show, so I'm a little jealous, but I'll let it go. He has been in the past. And it was, it turned into such a blessing. And that's the beauty of any darkness, right? That there I was, sick and dying, and I used it for freedom. So this is kind of a modus operandi, that whatever challenges come on the hero's journey, we're not here to try to make our life perfect or to feel good all the time. It's not like that. And I say it to remind myself, we are here to go through what appears to be standing in the way of freedom, so that you can discover how you've tied yourself up with wrong unconscious thinking that I call programs, and how in that the awareness of freedom seems to disappear. Freedom seems to go away. And you might claim I'm not free. But at the end of the day, the Creator is in all of the aspects, even the ones that feel the least free or the most painful. And the discovery of that can only be seen by actually going through it. So this is what I help people do all day long as a coach. Some of that's in one-on-one groups. I'm also training coaches. We're more than halfway through a 7-month training, and just watching these amazing souls run a marathon in that world. Unindoctrinated, nice to see you. And organized religion and all of that. So it's always my wish, as soon as I find freedom on any path, then I want people to have that, that would want that. I've recently become an evangelist for Dr. Garrett Smith's work, who you had on, because I keep thinking, good, I'm glad you guys hit it off. I keep seeing incredible results, and I keep seeing the truth. I've been in the natural health world for the whole 25 years since surviving cancer. I tried desperately to get a natural cure for cancer. If I knew what I know now, I would not have had to fight for my life for 3 years. I likely would have never had to go down the chemotherapy, um, to poison myself for 11 months in a row the first time, and 5 weeks the second time, every single day having these drugs pumped into me. Still to this day trying to recover my liver from that onslaught. And so the truth is there, right? God has provided it. And if we're brave enough, if you're brave enough to go inside the experiences that you don't want and don't like, you're going to actually find the truth.
Angela says she doesn't see Ryan, so he's actually, Beth is broadcasting this on her YouTube and Facebook, so he's actually on her YouTube. That's why you're not seeing her comment. So if you're seeing anybody's comment that you're not seeing, it's maybe they're on either her Facebook or YouTube that are commenting. So what's your thoughts on if you didn't choose to go down the route of the medical mafia, like you said, poison yourself, do you think that you could would still be here? Do you think if you used alternative measures, you had stage 4? So obviously, they were probably saying you were close to, passing on to the next. You chose the medical, system of poisoning through chemo and all these other things. But if you didn't choose that, do you think that you could have still survived through, what you were going through?
Yes, and I tried to avoid it like the plague. So for months and months, I moved across the country to work with a naturopath that had more experience with cancer than anyone else. And so I've been slowly taking inventory of all of the treatments that I took and how they, in some ways, interfered. Like, I will never say anything bad about this naturopath. He was like amazing, godsend. It was a miracle that I could find him. He supported me a lot. And but one example, he was giving me intravenous vitamin C. And what does this actually in reality do is it stops your body from detoxing. Antioxidants, we've been indoctrinated, brainwashed to say, oh, they're good for us, just because was everyone chirping about antioxidants? Because it was pushed into the mainstream through through all the channels, the media channels, mainstream and otherwise. And so, if I hadn't been taking that, which was suppressing my own detox process, which I now know to be primarily about an enzyme called, let's see if I can get the name. It's ALDH. It's aldehyde dehydrogenase. Darn, I'm still not able to say that. And so I see that there were things I was doing that were distinctly holding me back in the process. And so, yes, again, knowing what I know now, I would never go for the heavy drugs. It was actually my naturopath that sent me back to do that. He said, because I was getting a little better with him, probably due to the suppression. I felt better. And then suppression never works. It's an exact parallel in my own work that you can only suppress to a point. It takes all of your might. It takes all of your energy to suppress what needs to come up from the unconscious. And so that suppression of the disease, which really was poison, that's all it was, the toxicity, the accumulation of a lifetime, wrong food, wrong diet, no awareness about chemicals, just being born and raised in a world that was all contaminated in many, many different ways. Never mind the mental, emotional, spiritual stuff, even aside. But yeah, so I will never again get a biopsy to decide what the disease is. Every time they biopsied me, I actually got more sick. Why? Because they were taking what was encased in tumors and breaking it out, and it became systemic. Like overnight, I became a way more sick person. That alone, if anybody had told me this is what's going to happen, I could have spared myself that. And yeah, there's no way, like if I was somehow knew I had cancer again, there have been times through my detox where I have the feeling of cancer because I'm aware of that, what that feels like. And but I still definitely would not go the mainstream route. I'm more, the only thing I might do for mainstream is if I already knew I was dying, my days were limited, I had unfinished business or conversations to have or some kind of thing that needed clearing, then I might very well take some suppressants to prolong the inevitable. But that's the only real use. Or, if you break your leg and then they set it, that seems really good. Or if you're bleeding out of a knife wound like you had so many of, then I would let them stitch me up. And, there is a place for all of that, but not for this. We have these words, cancer and COVIDs and all this stuff, and it all means poison. Or it doesn't mean poison, but it's all based in poisoning. And this greatly simplifies it. So it's the same at the mental, emotional, spiritual level. We have accumulations of thoughts and feelings and programs. Maybe, I had my run with baking soda. It's like a Band-Aid, or baking soda. Is that true with a Band-Aid? Yeah, no, I was thinking.
She's saying baking soda enema.
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh, I see. I see. I am a big fan of enemas. I'll just tell you because I think you can accelerate. It's not something that necessarily people have to do to detox, but I don't think the coffee enema is good, and I've never tried baking soda. And but my new favorite is niacin, flush niacin. And there's really good science behind that. Where there's a baking soda, then I think you start to play a little bit with your pH, and you don't necessarily want to make there maybe it's been, I shouldn't talk out my butt on that one, pun intended there, but yeah. So I'm not sure about baking soda. I don't know.
Well, I know that taking a bath with Epsom salt, baking soda, and lavender oil helps balance out the pH, and it helps detoxify. We add in some borax, we add in some CBD oil bath bombs, maybe even some hydrogen peroxide, the real food grade stuff where we put into the bath. So this is all stuff that helps. Also, as well as apple cider vinegar, taking a little bit of apple cider vinegar, every AM, adding a little bit of baking soda isn't a bad thing. You make like yourself a little Eno. I don't know if you remember those Eno drinks. Well, you can make a natural with baking soda and apple cider vinegar and have that every AM, which would be definitely beneficial to the health. But everybody has their different take on things. Some people say this is great, and other people will say, no, you shouldn't be doing that. You should be doing this. And another person will say, those two people are wrong. You should be doing this. It's really hard to, know what exactly is right or wrong, for yourself when there's so many different people that sound so credible, and they got, whatever credentials behind them. But everybody's got their little bit different take. And I think that's where intuition, plays the best part. Angeline does muscle testing. So she actually asks herself whether she should be taking something before she takes it on almost everything she takes. And I'm just wondering what your thoughts on, so many different people will tell you different things are good and different things are bad. And these are from alternative systems, not the actual medical mafia. We know they're all garbage, like you just mentioned. But, what's your thoughts on all these alternative telling you all these different things that you should or shouldn't be doing? And I think you mentioned ivermectin. Some people are saying it's good, but it's a pharmaceutical and it's got a lot of bad stuff in it. And so it helps people, and people come on here, well, it's helped me. That's great if it's helped you, but what side effects has that caused by, helping you with whatever symptoms that you may have had?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can't emphasize enough that ivermectin is a neurotoxin, a proven neurotoxin. I have an excellent interview. If you feel like posting it, I can get that. It's not an interview. It's a video by Kelsey Kenny, who I am going to be interviewing. She is a molecular and cellular biologist and has the science down to a T, and describes how it's a big scam, an absolutely huge scam that again, people were brave enough to refuse that. And somehow now, and the reason they're going for this is because they engineered it perfectly. They made it look like they were keeping it away from us, like they were withholding this magic pharmaceutical from us, and therefore that made everybody want it, right? Like, it's psychology 101. Come on, reverse psychology, I guess. Now, it is extremely frustrating in the natural health world, because it's just like you. I have colleagues and I have, people that I consider credible, and they go in a lot of different directions. There can be some overlap, which helps, because then you think like, oh yeah, that matches my intuition. And more than two people say that as well. But there could come a time when you need to completely abandon ship and just go with the actual. Now, intuition is part of it, yes, but the actual experience. The problem with that is that the actual experience is suppressed, like I was talking about. We push it down. We don't want to see it. If you take the what you think to be the good thing, then you might not pay attention to the negative signs, because you've already decided it's a good thing. And you might even decide that the bad signs are part of the good thing, and that needs to happen. So here's one of the main arguments that I hear for it, and it's similar with sulfur. By the way, sulfur is a poison. Sulfur vegetables are toxic. Epsom salts are toxic. I see that now firsthand for myself, tested with the Epsom salts. And yeah, I know it seems different for cats, and I my heart goes out for anyone that has to make decisions. And yes, that one too, Stacy. Yes, these are all dangerous drugs. I don't know about it being specifically a neurotoxin, but it's right in that. And why are they selling them together? What is up with that? Why are supplement companies selling this now? How do they get it without a prescription in Canada? I don't understand. It's not an over-the-counter drug. And so, yes, you get all of these different kinds of information from people that I love, that I respect, that, seem to have done the work and all of that kind of thing. But where the rubber meets the road is when you have a problem that nothing worked for. And I have done everything. So I survived cancer, but I was left with a whole lot of fallout. Last year, I almost dropped dead of a digestive breakdown. For 3 months, I didn't digest food. It was over. My liver went, done. We can't do anything more from here. And so that got me next level searching. And I had some progress with a wonderful friend who's a nutritionist, and I did get myself out of trouble again. But I could see how that trouble was always lurking, standing at my door. And, whether it was getting a cold sore, or feeling like I'm going to come down with a cold, or digestion doesn't work very well. Thank you, Angela. So it was always these niggling things. And then I had been indoctrinated to, as soon as any niggling little symptom comes up, I find the remedy to crush it with. So that's vitamin C, garlic. Garlic was very interesting, very high sulfur. And I could take a little bit of garlic, like swallow it directly, and the symptoms would disappear. But then down the line, I would have to take more garlic for those symptoms to disappear. And then it would get to a screaming level where I was taking 4, 5, 8 cloves of garlic per day for like 10 days in a row. And yes, it would end it. But there I was facing potentially the next, I was always on this marathon trying to overcome. Well, it turns out that garlic and onions are actually poisonous. I was indoctrinated to think they are good for your immune system, but due to their sulfur content, they stop your body from detoxing. When you're taking poison in, your body's not going to release poison, because it can't do both at the same time. And so now I know everybody loves garlic, and I did love garlic. I didn't think I could live without it. Now I have an aversion to it. This is an interesting part that we won't have to stay on this subject for very long, but we get addicted to poisons. You can see it easily with heroin and
sugar,
and pharmaceutical drugs, how hard it is for people to come off them. Well, I didn't know that the foods were the same, whether it's high vitamin A, high sulfur, antioxidant, all of that kind of thing. We get addicted to it. And even though it's harming us, we still want that more and more. And sometimes it's because we want our body to shut down. We don't know it. We want our body to shut down because it's so uncomfortable to have symptoms. And that's true. And your symptoms can, in fact, kill you. Will Gensky is here. That's nice. Hello. Nice to see you. That's from Marty's group. He's such a wonderful soul. They do prayer requests over there. And there was a very, very special day where they sent some love to my friends that are suffering. And so, it's at some point, a lot of people came to this because they were desperate. They had tried everything, every form of the diet, all the supplements, all the magical this and magical that, or the, God forbid, drugs that you used. And then when it doesn't work, you become more open and more porous to new information. And so I took the leap of faith and I stopped taking poison vitamin D, and I stopped taking vitamin C, and I stopped taking garlic and onions and all of the things that I would use to as if cure. And I waited for the bomb to drop. I'm like, okay, like what's going to happen now? And what's happened over 5 months is that my energy has done this. I have times now when I feel good, I feel better than I felt my whole entire life. And when I am detoxing, because this is a detoxification process, DMSO is a sulfur. Exactly. It's a sulfur. And I'm sad to speak out against it, but it is a sulfur and it's not good for you. I have half a gallon if anybody wants one. Half a gallon. And then so when the detox happens, it used to come up and rage, right? Like it would erupt and I would get the cold, I would get the flu, I would get the cold sore, whatever it was. Now, when it comes up, it comes like this and it goes like that. And then it comes up again a little bit like this and it goes like that. And it's so much easier and it's so much better. And yes, vitamin D is rat poison. Put that into any search bar. AI is actually going to tell you that cholifactorol, one of the main ingredients in their concoction of vitamin D, which is not natural. I don't think it exists in nature personally. That's my intuition. And you put the words rat poison behind cholifactorol, and it gives you the whole lowdown about the rat poison, not negating a single thing. So if you already know, then you can find that. If you don't, then now spices is an interesting one. I didn't know. I'm such an evangelist for this now because of all the results I'm getting. Spices are mostly addiction. I was addicted to cinnamon. I was addicted to hot peppers, thinking I've been told, oh, they're good for my blood and they're good for parasites. Never mind the parasite craze, which is so much BS. Another reason people think they need that ivermectin. Nicotine, yeah.
And for spices, there's a lot of them are, laced with heavy metals. Lots, even black pepper, I was just reading about. Get the peppercorns because there's a lot of in the black pepper. They add these fillers, they add metals. There's a lot of, so, as crazy as the world like it is, like I just wish we had a place where people would be criminally prosecuted if they gave any poisonous food, anything that was poisonous as food. This should be like, it's against natural law, but, it seems like nobody's held accountable for, allowing these companies to poison people through food, through the milling process, through, all the different, ways that they're poisoning us. And it's legal. It's like, and they can literally kill people and oops, sorry, and just take it off the shelf and change it as a different name. And nobody ever really gets held accountable why they continue on poisoning people.
Yeah, exactly. And there's people who don't know. There's a lot of innocent people, and it's hard in this position right now because if I say somebody's singing the praises of copper on Facebook, and then I come along and go, copper is poisonous, which it is. I'm extremely aware of all of the symptoms of copper toxicity that I deal with. Black pepper also, even the corns would be poisonous. I overdosed on that in India, and I had a massive reaction. I realized that it was poisonous. And so it's tricky because people just don't know, and they're doing their best, and they have studied, and they're trying to do their best. When I took stuff, it was always on faith, and it was also laced with the fear that if I don't take this, I will get somehow worse, that this is keeping me at this low flying level, like, okay, not dying, but not thriving as much as I could have. And yes, infertility, Liam, exactly. It's part of the infertility agenda or the depopulation agenda. It's right there. So, and then the spices, I didn't think I could live without them because I am a kind of a gourmet, and I love food to taste not just good, but I need it to taste like wow, right? And so I was very proud of the way that I can make food and with all the spices. So I thought I would die without them. That took some deprogramming, more the insider work on that. And now food tastes as good or better as it used to with all the stuff. And I only use salt for the most part, and apple cider vinegar. I still like that flavor, and it's good for your gut. And yeah. No, copper is definitely not good for us. It is absolutely poisonous, and there's no amount of it. People will come back and say that the argument, it's the amount that gets to, even water is toxic in too much amount. But a poison is always poison. A poison is always poison. Water isn't always poison. It's perfect in the right amounts.
This last comment here, it's doesn't black pepper help you absorb vitamins, through your body? They say that, black pepper helps turmeric and other things, you'd be able to ingest it. But, it just makes me question everything, what they've been telling us and what people think is good and repeat it as good. They just heard it somewhere. They've never done any scientific. For me, when I've always said you should put black pepper with your turmeric, it's because I've heard other people say it, not that I've actually done any, scientific, I don't have any scientific evidence of that. And then I just repeat that as fact, not knowing if that's true or not.
Right, I have a turmeric plant here. We grew our own ginger and turmeric this year, which was pretty fun. But I did discover that turmeric is also toxic because of the very high vitamin A, and you can tell by the color of it. And so, the basic premise is that we lack for no herbs and spices. We don't lack for that. We lack for nutrients. And ivermectin does not cure cancer. That is a lie. Please do not spread that anymore. Educate yourself. I'm going to grab the link so people can see that. Do not spread that. Don't be the emissary for pharmaceutical companies.
I find if anything has got an ingredients list, it's a warning label. Because I say ivermectin, the things that actually help people that's in ivermectin are black walnut and wormwood. And then you can add pau d'arco and a few other things that are just natural substances that can help you. And when they concoct it with their formula and add their things and add whatever their fillers, then it actually becomes, and it comes from the pharmaceutical companies. It's not like natural. They take all these different substances, they formulate it into their, pharmakia, black magic. And then apparently some people have said, it's actually sterilizing, people that have been taking it.
Yes, and don't wear copper also because it absorbs in the skin like most everything does. If you wouldn't eat it, don't put it on your skin. I do hear about zinc. Somebody mentioned zinc. And yes, zinc does help you to detox copper. That's true, but it's not a balance. You don't balance with a poison. That's not how it works. You don't need the poison. You need the zinc, but you don't need the poison. Hydrogen peroxide, is that what you're saying? 3%, couple of drops. So hydrogen peroxide, that's the one that is a little Band-Aid like. It is helps your body with an oxidative process, which means it is pro-detox. It's the same with ozone. I did a lot of ozone injections right into my blood, and it did make me feel better. And it cooperates, but it's more like a Band-Aid, and it won't cure the root cause. Yeah, please do click that link and open it and open your mind and see, you don't know it. It's not your fault, but you're harming people by promoting ivermectin.
So you posted it onto your YouTube channel. If you shared it in the private chat, then I can post it to all the other platforms
Great.
that we're at, so everybody can
Great.
see that link.
Great. Yeah. This is a hill I'm willing to die on. Shouldn't say that too loud, but
Now, where do you think, or no, let's talk about your Anarchapulco. Tell us about your Anarchapulco. And again, when we talk about this health stuff, you know, people aren't going to agree. Follow your intuition.
that's okay.
What Beth is saying here is what she's found out, what works for her, and this is what she feels is best for her, and she's giving the advice of stuff that she's learned on her journey. You're going to hear someone else, a different doctor, that maybe you're going to disagree and say, oh, you should be having copper, drink out of copper vessels, wear copper bracelets. You got all these TikTokers that's saying these things. Again, you need to figure out what your intuition tells you, whether you want to listen to this person or that person, or do your own research on these things, which is obviously best. You know, that's what we advocate for. And just because we bring someone on the show here and they say one thing, it doesn't mean we agree with, you know, what they're saying. We want people to do their own research before you choose to, you know, stop eating garlic or things like that. Find out. The Queen and the royals apparently was illegal to have garlic in the palace. You know, what was that for? Was because they were reptiles, or was garlic maybe, you know, not natural, right? Other people swear on garlic, and every time they're sick, they eat the garlic. And I don't know if it's the mental or if it's the garlic, because, you know, when you believe something is going to heal you, it's more likely to heal you than, you know, like they have the nocebo and the placebo effect, right? So, you know, I just want to get that out there. So do your own research. Some people feel one way, some people feel another way. You're going to hear 10 different opinions, but you really need to, you know, use your intuition and do your own research, what you think is going to be best for you and your family when it comes to this medical stuff.
Yeah. And then if everything doesn't work, then you might be open to going even deeper. So yeah, Anarchapulco, I'm pretty excited. This is my 5th time speaking. It was my 3rd in person, interrupted by a couple of years of scamdemic, or how do you say, plandemonic?
Plandemonic.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, if people keep promoting the copper, I'll keep letting you know. But that's all right. And so what I'm speaking about at the conference is something called Marriage of the Opposites. And so this is Alchemy, one of the archetypes that I work with, and that people could do an archetype quiz at my website, and in 10 minutes find out where they are on the path of purpose. You just sign up at my homepage, bethmartins.com. And so in this archetype of the alchemy, you find that there's a great deal of opposition. Not just here on this chat, for example, all the confusion about what to eat, what's real. And oxalates are poisonous, by the way, 100%. And then so we end up in conflict with each other is one of the easier places to see the conflict. And it's harder to see how the conflict is rooted inside yourself. We almost wouldn't have an English language if we didn't have oppositions. They show up at every single turn. You see them in our concepts that are maybe on a continuum, like, you know, up and down, pretty benign, up and down. If you're up and you want to go down, good thing you know what that relative direction is. Now, in reality, they don't oppose. Up and down are not opposite to each other. So there is a certain level of indoctrination that's taken place. Or when two people have a different view, one person loves the copper and the other person doesn't love the copper, and then they end up in opposition, you can trace that conflict back to yourself. What is it that you're opposing inside yourself? And so when you start to go down this rabbit hole and look through The Alchemist, maybe we should stay on the food subject. It seems like people are more interested in that.
Well, I'm catching up all the comments, so I'm just trying
Okay.
to get through. This was from back there, so maybe if you
Okay.
can not let that distract you at all
Okay.
till I catch up here.
Okay. It's nice to show the comments. I like doing that too.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, a lot of different levels we're going to find oppositions. And so that's basically why I was a dying person. I was opposing myself in so many ways. I opposed my exhaustion, meaning I went into resistance and suppressed it, and I drank coffee instead, thinking that that was gonna like be the cure. I actually didn't think it was the cure. That's what I did instead. I opposed the fact that I didn't love all the people I was working with, or nearly any of them, except my parents in that business, that they weren't my chosen family that I wanted to be with. I opposed the pain of having a relatively meaningless life in that work, in that corporate environment where, the big monsters didn't give a crap about anybody and not me and not anyone. And Will's dogs think they are people. Yeah, that's common. And I opposed the pain of being that split personality where my real self was off wanting to do the things where I felt to be much more in keeping with who I am and healthy for me and good for me. And then I even opposed the symptoms of what turned into that stage 4 lymphoma, as you mentioned. And so everything that I opposed inside myself became my enemy. I literally had several layers of enemy inside myself. I was fighting them. Had this unconscious war going on at multiple different levels. And it was ultimately that so I could be safe, quote unquote. We love that word these days. We know how weaponized that one is. In the tribe, I put myself in danger. Right? This is how upside down. Pray for garlic and onions. That's hilarious. This is how upside down that we are. Everything has been turned upside down for us. It's that's just the way it is, right? So you can rail against that and become opposed to that and lose energy in that, or the possibility exists to make some new choices and ultimately to what I call marry the opposites. I'm not the first one to call it that, by the way. That's a classic place that comes up. But we do the worst things. It's easy to think about the person that went for the poison injection to keep their job so they could feed their family, right? That's a sort of easy example for us. But when we think about our own inner war, this is much more hidden from consciousness. There's often one of the symptoms of this is that we have the illusion of only two choices. Should I stay or should I go? Should I do or should I die? Just a couple of examples, and you can't live with them and you can't live without them. Just one of many examples of how the oppositions take place and take root inside our life. And yeah, damned if you do, damned if you don't. That's the signs of one of the programs that says no matter what you do, you can't win or get ahead. And these two choices, they both hold a certain charge. So what's anything that's undecided in your life? Jesse, if we use an example of that.
What's something that's undecided?
Yeah, where you feel like you've got some choices ahead of you.
What to continue on with the show that we're doing, because we put a lot of time and effort for, and it costs us to put this show on. It doesn't, we're not able to feed our family, I guess, with this show. And so there's a lot of time and energy that goes into something that our goal was to hit 1,000 shows, and once we get to 1,000, then we're going to really decide what we're going to do with this show. So I'm kind of at a crossroads because it takes a lot of time and effort, and I know what we're doing is important work, but I've got to really think about me and my time, what's going to be the best for my surroundings, for the people around me, for my family, what I actually have to do. So once we hit 1,000, we'll see. And that's kind of something that's undecided on what we're going to do from here.
Right. So it's a good example, and it shows how often it seems like there's now I'm going to imply the second choice, continue with the show, pay to do it, or don't. And so in that, what could be opposition, when you consider all of the feelings around continuing with the show, paying to do it, and that there will be a whole kind of arrangement of thoughts and feelings and programs that go along with that. And then if you consider its opposite, not continuing with the show, and you might notice there's some thoughts around that and some feelings, and you might not see the programs, but the programs are what's holding that in place. Don't get me started on balance. And that's actually a big part of this presentation. And then so those two charges on those two indecisions are stopping you from seeing reality. Not the ideas of it so much, but all of the experience around it. They hold a charge. They have a certain magnetic pole, and they keep that opposition in place. And they keep you going, should I this or should I that? Or should I this or should I that? Or should I this or should I that? And there's a lot of mental energy that goes into that. And it's wasted energy. And it doesn't really resolve in a good place. You usually end up having to, and I don't think it's finding the middle path, with all respect. Well, it's not the middle path. This is something different. This is alchemy. This is not trying to do the math and what's halfway. You can think about, maybe if I just finish this example. So when you've got all of those very charged positions, and two of them, it's like a magnet, it's a pole, it creates a certain power, but it's a draw of power away from you, or it will feel to be a loss of power. Maybe you can relate to that. And so ultimately what you can do is to allow these two experiences to neither oppose each other anymore, and to actually hold them. Now, I can just say this stuff and it's going to sound hollow and it might not have any meaning, but if you actually do it and you try it, where you have a strong charge on one side of the decision and a strong charge on the other side of the decision at the same time, and what it can do is give you the most pain, because then you really feel the tension. When you're just going back and forth, that's easier. But if you hold them both at the same time and you let that electricity and the resistance between them just be, without needing or wanting to do anything with it, and then some third thing is born. Right? The classic opposites are masculine and feminine archetype. And when they are allowed to be as they are together, then a third thing is born. Something new, some brand new awareness that you couldn't have had before. And you realize that those two positions of opposition really never opposed each other in that way. You had just set it up that way because we are hardwired and intensely indoctrinated on this. So I know I'm pretty way out in the ethers on this subject.
Well, for me, and I know Lori said, doing less shows is an option. So we've built up something amazing, and we've, obviously made so many different friendships, and we're obviously probably never stop doing interviews. We just might not be doing it full time like we're doing it. We might have to cut back to maybe 1 or 2 interviews a week, opposed to doing 5, 6, 7, 8 interviews a week. And be able to use that time to be able to work on other projects that, may, be financially, beneficial to, me and my family. And so that's kind of where we're at, because we've put our, kind of our heart and soul into this, to do 1,000 interviews in less than 4 years. I think we first interview was February 28th or 27th, 4 years ago. So it's going to be coming up on our it's not quite 4 years. So we're right around 1,000 interviews, and, we've put a lot of time and effort into it. So we might have to pivot, but I don't think, with everything that we've created here, that we'll ever just stop it, unless, I guess, depending on the internet and all kinds of other things. But, for now, the show, we won't just cancel it, but we might have to pivot and maybe take some time and just maybe do it a lot less, because of, the time it takes to put this all together.
Right. There you go. So you already got yourself out of the opposites, and you're birthing some new idea. That's beautiful. And yes, J.L. Stahl, it is the same with a good marriage. That when a man and a woman, that's one of the psyops of our time, that men and women are pitted against each other in competition for, unfortunately, what can be scarce resources of, whether it's time, money, what, love, all of that classic stuff. But if they realize that they're on the same team, they're working together for the same goals, or that's the hope. Excuse me, sorry, I couldn't get fast enough for that. Then then there's harmony, and it's never balancing the masculine and feminine. It's never a balancing act. You want the masculine to be full on masculine, fully and strong, and it's same with the feminine. You also want the feminine to be full on strong, because if you're trying for some middle ground, then the only way to get that middle ground is to suppress both. That's what our controller's doing. That's what all the gender bending BS is about, right? So this is actually going the opposite direction, completely unsuppressing, bringing to the light of consciousness what has been hidden. It's difficult to hear this because it can just turn into flat words, but it comes alive when you start to see it in yourself and you study it. And you get quiet enough inside yourself to observe very subtle phenomena. And so then the potential becomes exponential. They know how powerful men and women are together as the head of a family, as the heads of community. And so that's why they want to make sure that men aren't men anymore. It's very rare to meet a man that is full on with the masculine. And same with women. And that's one of the things that was killing me a lot of years ago, was getting completely out of alignment with my feminine.
And as crazy as it is, it's a lot of that had to do with all of the foods that cause hormonal imbalances inside of everybody. The food, the injections, the water. And when you've got hormonal imbalances inside of you, it's easy to question everything, what's going on, and, make people choose, like you said earlier, to love the poisons, to love the poisoning of themselves, because they have, everything is going haywire inside, and so that's, I think, one of the bigger problems that we have is, to get that balance back inside of someone's self, which comes, with just taking care of yourself and putting the right foods, putting the right things in your vision, putting the right things in your thoughts, getting some time for yourself to go hug a tree, get out in nature, go for walks. Like, there's a lot of things that people could do to balance themselves out. And sweating. A lot of people don't sweat enough. And that's why they say, saunas are so important, because you actually detox through sweating. And how many people sweat regularly, especially in, Canada in the wintertime? Are you ever sweating at all? In the wintertime?
I make myself a little bit every day with exercise. Yeah.
Yeah, good for you.
Yeah.
Someone asked if you played the guitar. They said they saw the guitar in the back. Do you play?
I do. And I actually have 4 recordings. I forget to talk about them. They're a little bit more Now it's I'm a more of a dabbler, but there was a time when I was more of a professional musician. I did 4 recordings in the studio, and you can get them at my website. I think you might have to ask me. Maybe there isn't a tab right now, but if you'd like to hear, then that's it's also on iTunes and Spotify. So if you've got either of those or any of the streaming channels, then you can just look up my name, Beth Martins, and you will find my CDs.
Have you ever played anything live?
Oh, yes. Yeah,
Okay.
a lot.
Did you want to maybe play us something?
Oh, God.
You don't have to, but
possible.
if
possible. I'm not sure if the guitar is tuned or not.
I think that would be great, just to show people a little bit, more of you.
Okay, I know the pick is across the room, so give me 1 second.
All good. We're just going through these comments, and thanks everybody for being here live with us here today. We're live on the Jesse Hall Facebook profile, the Missing Link Live Facebook profile, our YouTube channel, the Missing Link Live, our Twitch, the Missing Link Live, our Twitter, the Missing Link Live, and the Rumble Missing Link Live, as well as everybody that's watching from Beth Martins' Facebook and from her YouTube channel as well. Please like, subscribe, thumbs up, share it out. Go to some of our other platforms if you can. Subscribe to those channels as well. Help us get in the algorithms. That would be appreciated. We've got about 160 people here live with us right now. So thanks everybody for tuning in. And Beth is just tuning up her guitar a little, and maybe she can play. And I'm not sure if you sing at all, or if you're just going to play and, maybe give us a little tune would be wonderful.
Yeah, singing was my first instrument, so I only play guitar in order to accompany myself. Does that sound in tune? Okay, give me just a second. I'll mute and let you talk.
Sounds good. Yes, Jesse, mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual health is all the goal. Finding balance, the world is so out of balance, and they've done that, by polarizing the left and the right, the red and the blue, making people pull to one side or to the other. And they want people, they don't care if you think it's a chemtrail or a contrail. They only care that you fight about it, because you're picking one side or the other and not finding that balance in the middle. And once we can find that harmony within ourselves, then we can find that harmony with the world, and maybe, get the world back more in balance. And, right now we're in a massive poisoning of ourselves, of our earth, of our food, our air, our water, our minds. How many people are pulled to one side or the other and not finding that harmony or that balance? And I think that that's key. And that's why something that, the meditation has been so demonized, where it's quieting the mind, connecting to source, just finding that balance within. And the more you can quiet your mind, when they want your mind racing, they want you from here to there, and, being able to pull you in different directions and get you attacking other people, and I'm right and they're wrong. And, that's the whole out of balance, where, we want to get back into that, being able to find peace and balance within ourselves. And then, hence we'll find that more within the world.
Amen. So I'm going to play a song that I wrote pretty early on in India, and it has stuck for a lot of years. It's called Boat on the River. Can you hear the guitar okay? The boat is on the river and I'm going home. Oh Lord, let your sweet breath blow. The boat is on the river and I'm going home. Oh Lord, let your sweet breath blow. Oh Lord, let your sweet breath blow. Rock me gently so I can sleep and ease these waters black and deep. navigate. Show me the way. I left my anchor way back on the shore. I traded this sorry world for an old. Oh Lord, the boat is on the river and I'm going home. Oh Lord, let your sweet breath blow. The boat is on the river and I'm going home. Oh Lord, let your sweet breath blow. Oh Lord, let your sweet breath blow. Cover my eyes when the sun's too bright, and cover my body when the cool wind bites, and cover my ears from the river's might, and whisper words of immortality, and shower nectar of eternal peace. Oh Lord, the boat is on the river and I'm going home. Oh Lord, let your sweet breath blow. The boat is on the river, I'm going home. Oh Lord, let your sweet breath blow. Oh Lord, let your sweet breath blow. There's one more voice, or one more verse. So blow your breath into my lungs, that I may sing your song. Meditate in my heart. Well, I'm unborn in your eternal arms, and with your strength I face a raging storm. The boat is on the river and I'm going home. Oh Lord, let your sweet breath blow. The boat is on the river and I'm going home. Oh Lord, let your sweet breath blow. Oh Lord, let your sweet breath blow. Oh Lord, let your sweet breath blow.
Wow, that was beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that with us.
Oh, thanks for asking. That's nice. I enjoyed it. Yeah, that is on my CD. It's called Where There's Beauty. It's a beautiful production of it by my son's dad, actually, who produced that record of mine. Amen, Will.
So Angela says, if she has this song as a video or on her channel, please share. I'd love it in my music playlist.
Yeah, so can you grab it from Spotify or iTunes? There's no video. There might be a video for it. I think I got flagged on those videos because their CD Baby has them up as well. So it's weird. I can't even play my own songs on my podcast. They get flagged for copyright.
You're
So,
copywriting yourself?
Yeah. It's because of one of the distributors that they have the videos up or the songs up on video.
Wow, that's fascinating. And
Yeah.
how long have you been singing then?
For my whole life, and playing guitar when I started going to India, and I discovered my teacher was a songwriter. And I thought that if he could write more than 1,000 songs, I could probably write one. So I got myself a guitar in India and started to hack around with it. Within a couple of weeks, I put myself on a stage because I had the will to share, and I was able to learn quite quickly because I kept putting myself out in public. And I played a few events. I actually had my band open for Deepak Chopra to a theater of 2,000 people here in Winnipeg. Jahan Sadat, we opened for her. She was Anwar Sadat's wife. We were part of that speaker series, so I was able to hire myself for that. I played at the Winnipeg Folk Festival, which is a rather large event, which seemed like a kind of pinnacle thing. I really tried to fight my way into the music business, and they didn't like me at all. They didn't like me because I don't know, I made whole sentences, or I made sense when I talked, or I wasn't dissociated and all damaged and hungry enough for fame. There's my editorial version of why that didn't work. But I'm
Well,
super grateful.
but you know that the music industry is controlled by a really dark entity. So anyone that doesn't follow suit, anyone that's a bright light where they don't want a light, is not going to get any notoriety, is not going to make any headway, and that's probably what you were facing.
It's exactly right. I was really innocent, and I was happy, and I was young, and not dead yet, not nearly dead yet. And I took my a promo shot to a radio guy, and I tried to give it to him, and he's like, that's not a music shot. And I said, how come? He said, because you're smiling. And I'm like, oh, everybody in the music business isn't happy. I get it. I get it now. So yeah, no, I'm very glad they rejected me, so that I was not, stay on that. I wasn't on that path. I wasn't hungry enough for it to jump through their awful hoops. And it's very government owned here, the music business. Also, it's they throw $5 on the floor, and all the musicians try to kill each other for it. And they basically killed the music business by making it highly engineered. Who gets to go somewhere and who doesn't get to go anywhere. So 1990. What was it? 90. I think it was 92 was my, that's funny. I don't remember. 2000. Maybe, no. Yeah. 90. It was definitely in the 90s and somewhere around there. And thanks for asking. Yeah.
How has music helped your healing journey?
Well, it is a beautiful way to raise your frequency. And these days, what I sing mostly to is my distiller. It sets off a tone, and so it's like a drone. And many of the Indian melodies are set to a drone. They don't require a whole bunch of different chords like Western music does. You can take one note and make an incredible amount of music with it. So that's how I often end up playing these days. If the mind is just empty and there's nothing to be done, and I'm just in the space, and that tone will capture me and make me sing to it. So there's been a whole lot of that going on. It raises the frequency. Now I'm also aware I got sick with a stage 4 lymphoma, singing my brains out. So I want to just always share this cautionary tale that yes, it's good to use your breath or use this music or use whatever means. There's like 1,000 means these days to raise your frequency. And it can be something that you use like a painkiller, just the same way you would take some, Tylenol or whatever, that you want to feel better, right? Everybody wants to feel better. They don't feel good. They have pain, psychic, emotional, whatever it is. And so you pick up the guitar in hopes that you're going to feel better. And it's true. You do feel better. There's something that happens that you change your frequency, but don't let it make you stop trying to get the truth of it. Because if you only raise your frequency, you don't heal. Raising your frequency is not healing. We always call that healing. It's not, but it sets you up for healing. It's easier to heal from a high frequency than it is from a low frequency. But if you only chase frequencies, then this was actually my talk at Acapulco last year, that if you only get high, you don't realize you're also going low. As above, so below. So if you are addicted to the heights, you better be addicted to the lows. Now, what ends up happening when those lows come up to a high person is they say, no, I'm going to put my foot on you. I'm going to suppress you. I'm going to pack you back into the hidden unconscious where it rules, right? The more you suppress something in the unconscious, the more it actually wants to rule the day, not because it's cruel, just because it needs your attention. And so music is good for the frequencies. It's good for joy. Joy is very good. A lovely thing. It can be very connective. And I even, during the pandemic, I kind of stopped listening to music because I became aware of all of the, how they mess with us with, could be secret tones or the lyrics. They match up the most beautiful music and production with really evil lyrics. And I was tired of the, can I swear?
Yeah, of course.
I was tired of the mind fuck. I didn't want to like something that wasn't actually born of goodness. And so I cut myself off. There was, one Christian artist, Austin French. I listened to his music about, 600 or 800 times, just one piece, or, one collection of, he's got an album out that's really good. And it's good to move to. It's very inspiring, talks about Jesus. And so I let myself listen to that. But so yeah, I have, I'm always on the look for some indie music that wasn't the chosen one that came forward because it was selected by the controllers. And it's, I've end up listening to more podcasts like you.
I really found, my music was dancehall reggae music, dancehall, kind of away from, the mainstream music. So most of my life I was listening to that. And then I really got into electronic music to, just a beat, like a nice beat. I found myself when I was painting houses, I was putting on more electronic music than dance hall. And I was like, wow, I'm like, do I like electronic more? Because most of my life, it was just dance hall reggae was kind of my jam. And, I like just the music. You can just kind of lose yourself into this music where it doesn't have that, these frequencies or, a lot of them are even incorporating the healing frequencies and tones into them, which makes you feel good. And I think that with music, you should feel good when you're listening to it. And then for the last few years, I kind of got away from music. I wasn't really listening to music a lot. And I just started, in my vehicle, when I get in, the music from SoundCloud just automatically pops on and starts playing. So I've been listening to a lot of music more again as of lately. But for the longest time, I wasn't even having, for, these last few years as well, no music. And it was nice to just kind of, be in that quiet silence. I got a little wind chime on the mirror. So every time I'm drying, you hear this little wind chime. It was nice just to hear that nice little wind chime and be in a more of a relaxed state, because music has been a big part of my life for most of my life. So it was nice, maybe, I guess, to take a little bit of that break, but I'm starting to get back into the music again.
There you go. That's great. That's great. Yeah, it's good. It's I don't know if music will come back really super strong for me. I had a chance to play it in Acapulco a little bit last year, and I ended up backing out of it because of the mosquitoes. And I thought, well, how much do I really like? How important to me is that I could back out based on mosquitoes? And what was I saying? Mind fuck. That's it. Yeah. So it's purpose is an interesting thing. Sacred purpose is a big part of my subject that I help people and coach people on. And you might think, oh, well, I thought music was my purpose, but maybe it's not. It's not like that. It's that, how does your purpose want to express right now? I'm more interested in podcasting, in the education side of things. Definitely starting to think about my next book. And in the House of Free Will, which is my private association, which I invite anyone to check out, and it's by application. I have done, now this doesn't hold a candle to what you've created, but I've done more than 100 snippet videos that have been in the private. And this is my heart and my soul and how I really feel. And sometimes I won't share to this level in the public. Well, with these 100 new videos, I basically have a book. I could go and transcribe those videos. And I'd love to answer that question, Jennifer, about balancing the low frequencies. So I don't believe in balance. The low frequency does not argue with the high frequency. They are not off balance. And you're not trying to get to some magical center. I think there is a place for this concept, but it's not trying to balance the low frequencies. You're not in a low frequency because you're out of balance with the high frequency. It's not like that. It's that the whole scale of frequency exists. This is God painting, right? Showing all the colors, all the low frequencies, all the mid frequencies, all the high frequencies, all the frequencies that are off the charts that we can't even. But yes, there's a time for place for everything, but is it suffering? So we don't register suffering in high frequency. We only register suffering in low frequency. And this is part of the study, to see that even the high frequency contains the suffering, that we forget who we are, and we identify ourselves with the map of frequency. It's very esoteric. We identify and you can see an exact parallel on the emotional scale. So we've got the lowest frequency of apathy, when people don't care. Right? Maybe if you don't understand what I'm saying and then you decide not to care about me and turn off the stream. That's one way. Or maybe it's grief next up on the scale. Grief is higher than apathy, which is so strange, because grief is so painful. And then even higher on the scale is fear. That also can be confusing. We don't think of fear as a higher frequency, but it's higher than grief and apathy. And then you keep going up, you get lust, you get anger. We love our anger. That's why we love to lash out at people, because it's very active and it's so much higher than apathy, grief, fear, and lust. And then we hit pride, right? And what does the Bible say about pride?
That was Lucifer's downfall.
Right, exactly. And it comes before the fall, right? So the pride is a very sticky point. It is a high frequency. So people who love high frequencies, pride is high. Now, the thing about high frequencies, no, exactly. There's no one who's not suffering. And this high frequency of pride, people love that stuff. They think they arrived. They think they're finished and just everybody else needs to do the work now. But it's poison, and it's the makings of war. That's how all the wars came about, although engineering and everything like that too. But the wars between people, the wars between good people, the war in yourself, and you're a good person, but you're warring on yourself. And so it's not about balancing. It's about seeing the map, and the whole map of what we consider to be the frequencies expressing, the highs, the lows, the everything. The purpose and the freedom are found on the other side, where there's no map and there's no frequency. The source of all frequencies. This is not
like becoming the observer.
It's part of it, but you know what happens when we say observer? I use it all the time, by the way, is that we turn it into an idea, and there we are back on the map. So yes, it's that which sees through the eyes. It's what hears through the ears. It's the power in all the good and all the bad. And so yes, you're closer if you're actually in that place of observing rather than trying to manage and engineer and control and all. So you're in a better place, because from there you can even let that witness go. But what can't you let go of? That's the real subject of freedom. What's there before you were born, what's been there your whole life, and what's going to be there when you're gone.
So are you saying instead of, trying to find balance, you just got to get good at riding the waves?
Also a very big part of it. Yes, exactly. And not to think a mistake happened when you went from your high frequency to a low frequency. And even the high and the low frequencies resonate with each other, just like strings on the guitar. Right? Like I don't know exactly which one's going to resonate when I hit this one, but I can already hear the other notes in there. They're in there. They come as a whole. They don't oppose. So, for example, when somebody is lost in grief, I was helping a dear client that lost someone in their life, and their really intense grief was coming up for them. And guess what they found inside that grief? Acceptance. And it's exactly the string that resonates with grief. Now, it'd be easier to leave her in acceptance because it's so much more enjoyable. And someone who could say, oh, she found balance because now she's in acceptance of this loss. But there's a deeper place. There's the programming that we don't see and we can't think of. It has to be a revelation, just like the Bible. These words were not thought of. Somebody sits there and grinds their mind and thinks of the right things to say that are going to be the smartest. It came right from God. It came from the source. And so this is the real freedom. Balance, you're always on a teeter-totter. And as soon as some force comes along and then you're out of balance and then you got to rebalance, and you're always jigging on this balance beam. But if you get off the beam and you see your connection with the source of the beam, and then the beam can do anything. Up, down, all around. You're on the edges, you're in the middle, right? Even silence, stillness, it's beautiful. This is a place you can see very fine points from. But we're going for the real freedom that exists in everything. But we're caught wrestling with opposites, just to bring it back around my topic.
It's like emotions are good, but don't let them get stuck inside of you, because sometimes people, choose to be stuck in that higher or lower vibration where they can't get out of it. But it's okay to feel those emotions, but don't, continue whirling and get stuck in them.
Right. It's, emotions are good. There's been actually a huge push to have us embrace emotions and to be emotional. And people will say, oh, this happened, therefore you should be angry. You should be in grief. You should be. And this is healthy and everything like that. It's a half truth, Jesse. Because the emotion is a stuck place. It's funny we have the word emotion, but mostly what does it mean? It means held, stuck energy. And they fake their emotions all day long to try to get along. In fact, that's what psychopaths do to get along in the world. They try to manufacture the emotion. So there's two sides. One where you are completely suppressing the emotion, you're demonizing it, you push it away, and you feel nothing. That's the makings of a psychopath. And then there's the other side where you worship the emotions and you're devoted and you get stuck in the emotions. Both of these are two poles that don't create freedom. But yes, when you allow an emotion to be there, you allow it to move, it naturally moves. They are all, even the best, highest emotions, are rooted in fear programming. And this, it's hard to believe. You would have to see it for yourself. But I have seen it countless times with incredible consistency. I'm hanging from the ceiling in peace. And I ask myself, wonder if there's a program behind this, because I know by now. And what the bottom line is that God installed a door to freedom at every single frequency. Every emotion is a door to freedom. But if you either avoid it or you get stuck in it, then it's poison for you, and it's poison for others too.
Some people say that stuck energy is what is the cause of most sickness and or disease, is that stuck energy or those stuck emotions, and the body's trying to warn the person, hey, there's something stuck in here, and then physical ailments start to manifest in order for that person to come to the realization that there is something that's stuck inside of them.
I totally agree with that because look, I did all of that to survive cancer. I spent thousands and I don't know, maybe $50,000 or $80,000 to try to get a natural cure. I tried everything, whether it was transcendental or it was physical in the natural health, or even that, really awful allopathic medicine. I tried everything, and it wasn't until I found the stuck energy. Then I went, and when I released it, when I went through what I considered to be the worst and the death of that, all of a sudden I became a living person practically overnight. And I had all kinds of tests to prove that had happened. So yes, that is the ultimate. I think we still need to work all the angles somehow, that once something is very strong in your body and it's gone beyond the more emotional side, it's manifested in the physical, then it's kind of like, I always say that it's like your matters ended up in court. You know how when you have a conflict with someone and you just tidily handle it in the private by some agreement? That's so nice. But some people allow the conflict to escalate and they end up in court. And then you're not in control anymore. Right? You don't have nearly as much control as you did when things were just private between two people. And then so some decisions get made for you. Once it's in the flesh, then you've got a bigger job on your hands. But that didn't stop me from breaking through. Right? I wanted the truth of it, and maybe it just simply wasn't my time to die. I don't know.
Angela's just saying YouTube unsubbed from, the Missing Link Live. I just looked today. We had 13 less people on Twitter than yesterday. And I'm just like, this was on Twitter. And so this has been happening for Facebook. This has been happening on our platforms. It's just something that goes with the territory, I guess, when you're not, towing the line or, promoting the agenda, then, there's a tough battle just trying to reach people and stay reaching people. But, that's, I guess, which is something we have to deal with.
Exactly. Do you mind if I shout out about my Telegram? Because the exact same thing is happening there, that every time I go to this group, there's less subs. And I'm pretty sure that nobody is showing up specifically to unsub. Usually you just mute or whatever. And so is that all right if I share in the chat here, my Telegram?
Yeah, of course.
Chat? Okay.
We have it in all the platforms except for Facebook, because Facebook doesn't allow to share links. And when I went to share yours, it was no more than 10. I can't share any of my Telegram or anything in my Facebook. I'm not allowed to. But if you put it into the private chat here, then I'll put it through, the platforms again.
It's so dumb. It's only giving me an @ and that won't be a link. So I have to go and see if I can grab that from my own notes. Bear with me.
And here's a good question from OT for when you're ready. It says, what else changed in your life when you felt the release and healed?
Everything. I was able to give myself permission to never go back into the corporate world. I started working exclusively for myself so I can control my environments that I worked in, that they were always a healthy environment, because that was one of the things that was killing me. I was always in some, chemical, air-conditioned environment I couldn't control. I started to pursue full-time, turning around and giving what I learned in that journey, whether it was at the time meditation, helping people study archetypes and the hero's journey, helping them to create health in their body. At the time with yoga, I taught yoga for a lot of years. And so literally everything changed. My address changed. I didn't have a home for quite a while because I ended up having to sell my house to pay all those bills. And so I did a lot of moving around in that time and explored a lot of different things. And was there any people influencing me? Good question, Shelley.
That's that's OT. So he's been on Odious Feignant. He's been on our show a bunch of times. His account got banned, and so he's using his wife's account. So
okay.
That's why you'll see. That's why it'll be. I'm pretty sure it's OT that's using the account because he has been lately.
Right. Yeah, my family was trying very hard to influence me, especially when I refused a stem cell transplant, which was what the medical system thought was my last chance at surviving. But I found out that a stem cell transplant, half the people die doing it. And the people that live, it's not so good for them, right? It nearly decimates. They give you enough chemotherapy so you almost die. And then they do a gory procedure to harvest your stem cells out of your bone marrow. And then they give them back to you, like somehow taking them and giving them back is going to be some new thing. And then you go into isolation for at least a year because you're completely vulnerable to any insult of any kind, toxic or otherwise. And so when that was my only chance to live, then I faced my death. I went, you know what? I will choose the body dying over the soul dying. And I know people talk about the immortal soul. I felt at that time that the soul could die. And it's due to too much suffering. And maybe that's why the bodies die. I mean, I can't prove any of that. But I just knew it was too much violence to my soul. And so I chose, I said, God, if it's my time, I choose death. And in going through that, in facing the death, in discharging all of the held, stuck emotional fear of death that comes in a whole bunch of different disguises, I was able to lighten up and become a living person and join the living again. I met up with my oncologist in the hospital about, 4 or 5 months later, and I'd been hired as a musician to go and sing in the wards. And there I was in the exact ward where I had been all hooked up with IVs and receiving my treatments and sitting there with all my bald head. And I saw my oncologist walk by because I had refused the treatment. He's like, okay, see ya. Just like, he's like, okay, good, we're done. And so I go running after him and I said, hey, Dr. Rubinger, I survived. And he went like this. He glazed over and he walked away. He didn't ask me any questions. He didn't say, how did you do it? He wasn't interested. It was like somehow I put a knife in his chest that I had lived beyond his recommendations. He committed suicide 2 years later.
Wow.
Just showing how incredibly desperate they are in the futility of what they offer. Right. I actually got hosted for a National Oncology Nurses Conference after I lived through it, again, to come and play and sing. I have a picture of me with this 1/2 inch of hair. And I was a rock star among these nurses. Why? Because everybody dies or becomes so debilitated. And here I was, the shining example of somebody who lived without being, next level saved. And I say that very tongue in cheek. And Nurses Conference absolutely infiltrated. It was really funny. My oncology nurse got in touch with me in the pandemic, and I can't remember exactly why. And she had invited me for a talk of some kind, to give a talk for another thing. And then I said, you know what? You might want to go check out my YouTube and just see what I've been speaking about these days. I never heard from her again. So yeah, that love affair was over, but yeah. Yep, mass murder. And where are we cooperating with that? Chemotherapy is poison net, absolutely. Yep. Very deadly stuff.
Speaking of that mass murder, when doctors give people these death sentences, when they say you have 3 months to live or 6 months to live or 1 year to live, more often than not, that's when the person dies right around that time that they tell them. It's not in all cases, because I'm sure you probably were given a death sentence and, you were able to fight through it. But this should be like, this goes against all things, because if you're going to feel like you're going to die in 3 months and you just believe it, then you're more likely to die in those 3 months. That's why it should be illegal for a doctor to ever give anybody a death sentence, because I think that they contribute to that mass murder by getting the person to project that into consciousness, that that's when they're going to die, and making them lose all hope. And when you lose hope, essentially, that's when you die.
Oh yeah, interesting. You said a mouthful there. That I believe it is. They are spelling people, and the people want to be spelled. They want the prognosis. They ask for that. They need that because they feel so out of control of their own health, and they want to be controlled. That's programming by the doctor, and then the doctor's obligated to say something based on statistics. Say you have this much time to live. But yes, absolutely, you're right. People take that in. They believe it. They cooperate with the belief in it, and it can. Now they're not God, so God is really in charge of life and death. That's the ultimate. And then you have to learn to love life more than you fear death. That's when the real turning point comes. Like I had my whole family. Someone was asking about the influences, and they were very against me turning this stem cell transplant down because they had a lot of hope in that medical system. And so my sister would call me at 4 a.m. and she'd say really nice things to me, like, "You're gonna die, you're gonna die," right? Like that they got the cheerleader, but on the wrong team here. And so I had to withstand that, and I had to find my own power and my own truth inside myself. And knowing that it all fell down on me, I couldn't pass off responsibility. I was really well aware of that, whether it was on a doctor or my family or anybody else. And I really, did I have any influences? I had a guru on a mountain at the time. He was sort of an influencer, but he wasn't giving me advice what to do. That fell apart really quickly, that whole movement, because it became revealed he was a pedophile. And so not a whole lot of influencers at that time. Yeah, just the negative ones. And I was able to follow my heart. It was the same when I had my son, and all the families telling me that I'm in danger from birth. And, I had to lie to them. I couldn't tell them I was doing a free birth at home on my own because they were terrified of that. So I had to, they were of course trying to tell me at every turn, and I would just go, la, 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 la. I don't want to hear any of your horror stories. That doesn't have to be my horror story. Sorry you suffered. And then I did have quite a perfect birth, which was miraculous. And I saw how life happens by itself, and everybody needs to make their own choice. I'm not recommending necessarily that to anyone, but it was incredibly empowering to see how life is in charge. And we can trust it in a lot of ways. And you're muted, I think.
I know I said earlier I don't tell people what to think, but I'm telling people, if you can, stay away from the hospitals for your birthing, because nothing good comes out of them. And, because of all of the negative that outweighs any of the benefits, that there are alternatives. And I would, now, if ever had the opportunity, or I'd rather have it, just me and her or someone in the middle of nowhere, away from all the pharmaceutical system, and inherently you would know what to do, how to like make it happen. That would, I think, would be more safer than what these death hospitals have come to. It's because of all the poisons that they're going to put into that child right from birth, so they becomes a lifelong customer, and clipping and clamping the umbilical cord too soon, and all of the negative things that come from a hospital birth. That, yeah, if you can, I would, definitely look into, or anybody have kids or grandkids or whatever it is, think that there are alternatives than a hospital birth.
Right. Yeah, it's fascinating. Hey, there are certain subjects that we're willing to go out on the limb and say that thing. You know how I was brave enough to birth at home because I got myself a midwife, which was a total fluke, and then they fired me because I wasn't willing to go through their procedures and their checks and their thises and their that's, and I didn't want anything to interfere. So they served me papers. They became so frightened for their own liability, they served me papers at home. And then I was going to just abandon them. I decided I was going to give them a chance. They were bawling, they were crying because of the tension between their liabilities and their desire to actually serve a woman. And so I ended up birthing just with two of my doulas that had been along for the ride in the pregnancy. So they were there. They didn't really do anything, so to speak. But how did I get myself to that place where I could feel confident to birth at home? Is I faced my fear of the hospital all the way. And I packed a bag for the hospital so that I didn't have this aversion inside myself. This is another one of those opposites I was talking about. We have attachment and aversion at the same time. And you don't want to balance attachment and aversion. They're both negative forces. So as long as you're attached to the home birth and you have an aversion to the hospital birth, it's almost for sure you're going to end up in the hospital. My friends saw it a million times with their own clients that they worked with. But if you come to peace both sides, you come to peace birthing at home, you come to peace birthing at the hospital, and you face all the fears on all the sides, then nature can happen.
That's important. It's one of those, be careful what you wish for, and even on the negative, because if you're focused on it not happening, the universe somehow makes it happen in order for you to have to deal with that. But I like M here from your YouTube channel says, I had a home birth. He was 10 days overdue and they threatened I'd have to go to hospital. So I went camping. It worked. What an amazing story. I love that.
Love that too. Yeah. Yeah. What a great conclusion. I'm going camping. Everybody shut up. Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Well done. It's nice. Yeah. There's so much intuition. You're just really tapped into the a much finer level of information is available to a pregnant woman. It's just the fact of it. And I think that's very much by design. So yeah, following your spidey senses is a good idea. My spidey senses told me to hold my son as long as he wanted to be held. And so I did, even though everybody's telling me, put that guy down. He's going to end up dependent on you the whole life. He's going to end up a mama's boy, soft little mama's boy. And couldn't be further from the truth. We went out of our way between him and his dad and I to meet all of his needs that were humanly possible. I broke my back carrying him. And it was fun. The day I broke my back, he came and he wanted to like jump up to be held. And I'm like, oh no, sorry, Liam, I can't pick you up right now. He's like, okay, no problem. Like this. It became so secure for having had his needs met. This is something, somebody says I'm too dramatic or something like that, but I have had a lot of important lessons in my life, and I do like to share them. So sorry if that's too much drama for you.
No, this is great. People are learning a little bit more about you, and that's what the Missing Link Live is about, getting to, find any missing links about the world or you that you wanted to share. So, this is good stuff. I think you're right, because up until I think it's 6 or 7 years old, the child forms all of its kind of patterns what it's going to live for the rest of its life. And if you're choosing to ignore that child, you're choosing to not have its needs met, then that's what the child's going to remember in its later years. And even if you're trying to meet those needs later on, it's just going to have that ingrained into them that these needs were never met, and they're automatically, there could be psychological or neurological even damages done by a child not even, having those needs met as a child. I think a lot of these parenting advice is like, going to be a mama's boy and all this kind of stuff, that goes against, what, you're supposed to, because you're supposed to nurture that child. You're supposed to, that child can't take care of itself. So if the parent can't take care of it and nurture and give it all its needs, then how is it supposed to fend for itself?
Exactly. I know it's really, really crazy when they put the infant away to teach them. It's like heartbreaking, honestly. So yeah, if my son's any indication, then taking care, all the care you can, especially in their youngest years, sets them up for a lot of independence, autonomy.
And the new parenting, over the last probably 20 years is just stick a phone or stick a technology in front of them, stick them in front of a TV, to try to distract them instead of get them creating and moving and, exercising, all kinds of things. They put them into that TV programming, or, how often you'll see the parent just stick a phone in front of the kid and just to distract them from if they're maybe going to cry or something else. But if they're going to cry, it means they need something. And I'm sure they're not needing that phone.
Right. Yeah, it's humbling being a parent. I have to admit that there are times, especially the way we parent in North America, where it's a unit, and if you're lucky, you got both mom and dad, and if you're more on your own, which can be common as well, then there's it really requires a whole community to raise a whole human being. And so that's what I was tasked with, to get out there and start making connections with other people. I was very fortunate to have some excellent neighbors turned into best friends, and really sharing our family, sharing our children, sharing food, helping each other. Almost every day we would be helping each other to let the other work, because I had to, of course, never stop working and earning to support my son. And so I don't hold anything against anyone. Jennifer, my son is 18 now. He just turned 18. He just got his first car, and he's a rock star guitar player. Actually, if you come on you can visit his channel. It's guitars, guns, and knives are his fascination there. So he taught himself everything about it. He can play circles around me, and he can play circles around his dad, who's an extremely accomplished musician. So all self-driven. No one could have told him to do that. He did that himself, and it's really beautiful.
Now, this talk that you're having at Anarchapulco, maybe you could tell everybody what Anarchapulco is at first.
Sure, that's an event that takes place, I think, for the very last year in Acapulco, Mexico. And it's now I believe this is the 11th or 12th Anarchapulco that ever existed. And so it's a gathering, it's a freedom truth gathering started by Jeff Berwick. And I think I got slapped awake, by the way. And so it's a gathering of good souls that are, they consider themselves anarchists, but they're not the grungy anarchists, meaning the ones that are just railing against the machine and wearing black and looking unhappy. They're more the anarcho-capitalist is the word that they might use to describe themselves. So a lot of people that are more forward-moving, they're creators, they're inventors, they're doing stuff in the world to benefit other people. And yes, Mike, I wonder if I could find his channel really quickly. I should be able to. So you can go and check out what he has there. And I keep trying to pressure him to do even more.
So Jeff Berwick is from the Dollar Vigilante. He was a stockbroker. He created the first stock website, Stockhouse or something, and he sold it. He was actually on TV for these stock channels, these news channels, when he was doing into his stocks. And then he sold the website, and then I think he moved to Mexico, and then he got into crypto, and then now he's been speaking out. He did his talks with Lucy, his dog, going around talking about, stuff that's happening in the world. He goes hard on.
I met Lucy last year again. Yeah, just before she passed.
And so he goes hard on the Zionists. He goes hard on the New World Order, the globalists, the predator class. He really speaks his mind against them. And he created this Anarchapulco, which were kind of anarchists, not the anti-fascists that I think that Beth was saying, the anarchists that, believe that or know that government is not the option. Government is control. Government means mind control. So they teach people how to live beyond, the government. And then he's, collaborated a whole bunch of different speakers on a bunch of different topics. And, they have an event, and it's coming up this weekend, I think.
It starts on the 17th. So I believe that's, is that a Monday or a Sunday? Yes, I think it's a Sunday. And there's an incredible lineup of speakers, including David Icke, who can only come virtually because he's banned from most countries. I'm actually having an Icke sandwich because David Icke speaks, then I speak, and then Gareth Icke speaks. So I'm on either side of these Ickes. No intimidation there. And Andy Kaufman and Tom Barnett and Persephone Eshwari, who I had on my channel the other day. Lots of Steve Falconer is a wonderful Spacebusters channel. I love him. He's awesome. I would go for him alone. And then, Jeff is speaking, of course, a couple of times. And yeah, it's a fabulous event. It's kind of an intense place because they had a level 5 hurricane last year, and then they had 2 level 3 hurricanes, all unannounced. So it was literally a surprise, decimating Acapulco. It is being prepared for a smart city for sure. Because when we got there, the first thing they install are the smart meters. And they rush around like heroes, bringing the smart meters that we're saving the day. But you got cooked. You could sit in a restaurant, you'd have a smart meter on both sides. You couldn't really get away from it. So it's an intense place. I hear it's the last time they're going to use Acapulco as a destination. Maybe they'll have to change their name or something.
Well, some of the names that you mentioned, like when we first started the Missing Link, we had David Icke was our interview 15. We've interviewed Gareth Icke. We've interviewed Tom Barnett 3 or 4 times, I think.
Nice.
Gareth was supposed to come back on our show, but I had something come up where we couldn't, so we haven't set another date yet. But he's always interesting to listen to, because another person, again, speaking out against stuff that's going on. And Andy Kaufman is someone who'd really like to get on here. But we haven't had a chance to interview him as of yet. But he's definitely one of our, people we hope to have on our show.
I'm happy to introduce you if you want to.
Oh, that would be amazing.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
And then, so Beth here, you said this is your 3rd time now?
5th.
Oh, 5th time.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking at Anarchapulco. And this year's topic is opposition.
The marriage of the opposites. Yeah, this is alchemy. We didn't get super deep in it, which is okay. I don't mind, but it's the alchemy of the transformation. That's what the alchemist's superpower is, transformation. And so we want to change the world. How do you do it? I know it's a cliche from in here. We have problems with our brothers and sisters, and I see a lot of good people in conflict. So this talk is teaching you how to find and take out those oppositions. Not by balancing, if I can repeat that, but by actual alchemy. This is not a lip service kind of a thing. I've been using this technique for many, many years with my clients and students, and I've seen the practical application of it, but I never have had to explain it to anybody or talk about it. So it's been a very big project in the last months for me to develop this talk. And chances are they will gift it to me after. So if anybody wants to sub to my channel, I'll probably be running the replay of it. They gave me the talk last year. After some time, they want people to obviously attend the event. And they have a virtual version of it. So you can sign up if you don't have to, or if you don't have the freedom to travel to Mexico this year. If anybody hasn't got a ticket and wants to come and you want to make a last second choice, then you could use a code for savings, all one word and all caps, free will. And that's named after the House of Free Will, which is my private association.
So what she's saying is, if you can make it to Acapulco, come down, amazing speakers, a lot of fun, cool people, you'll have a great time. But if you can't and like to still view all of the speakers, like the people she mentioned, and, hear Beth's talk that she's going to do, you can log in virtually. And if you do and you want to see it, part of it or all of it, I'm not sure exactly how they have it, but you can type in the code free will, and then you'll get a discount for being able to view this in Acapulco, which starts on Sunday.
Exactly. You got it. Yeah. Nice, Jennifer. That's awesome. Yeah.
Is there anything that we didn't talk about here today that you maybe wanted to share before we maybe start to wrap this up?
Just that if people would like to take what could be a first step for them, I don't know if it is. Maybe you've already done a lot of this inner knowing yourself work. But if you haven't and you would like to do a 5-minute quiz and find out where on the path of purpose you are, what your archetype is at this time, and it can give you some insight about am I a flat earther? Oh, that's funny. It can give you some insight about where you're at right now, who you are, how to play more to your strengths, how to automatically see shadows that it took me 3 years to find because I didn't have a guide. And so the quiz can help you just see where are you losing some energy right now and why did you, not why, where you're losing the energy and then where you can go to work specifically to release that. Comes with 8 videos for each of the archetypes. You can learn a little bit about this whole trajectory of the hero's journey and how it cycles through the archetypes on a spiral. And the flat earther, yes, funny, Angela. I was listening to Karen B. Fe this morning on her channel, on her coffee talk. And even she is actually considering to stop focusing on FE just because it's an arena for nothing but conflict and division. And there's only so far you can go in the subject without coming to like a complete halt in mystery. And there's nothing wrong with mystery. We need to embrace it. But should we right now be fighting about the shape of the earth? Or should we be creating in God's image what we're here to do?
Exactly what we said earlier. They don't care if you think it's a chemtrail or a contrail. They just care that you fight about it. They don't care if you think the earth is flat or if it's round. They just care that you fight about it, that you're polarized, that you're divided, that you're not finding common ground with people. And hey, great, we think differently on the earth, but how can we fix the problems that we've got going on in our own lives and around us? That's what the only thing that they're afraid of is a united front. And if people take these stands and divide themselves, because of these polarizing narratives that are thrown out into consciousness, then that keeps them, the predator class, in charge, and people still at each other, just trying to figure out what shape the earth is more important than, trying to find, common ground and maybe start creating food, creating bartering, creating relationships, creating, togetherness is where we've got to figure out how to work with each other instead of working against each other, which, that's what they want.
Yeah, really well said. And honestly, from my senses, feels more flat to me. That's all I say. Just my senses. When I think of us in a realm, in God's realm, with their firmament and the heavenly bodies, and the sun's right there, and the moon's right there, that makes sense to my senses. So that's kind of as far as I went, because then I felt relaxed. I don't have to think about 290 million miles away and spinning and all these things that I can't observe, but I can observe this stillness that we're in. So that's as far as I went. And the FE people tend to like me. David Weiss is speaking at the at an Acapulco, and so he's going to be on. He can't speak about anything else. That guy. Have you had him on already?
We've had him on a few years ago, and he was just on a few months ago.
Right. Nice.
And for me, I have no idea what the shape is. I'm not one of those people that can tell you, but like you, everything seems observably flat to me. And, I have my intuition is telling me that it's a lot bigger than what they're telling us about. I have a feeling that there is more out there. There is more lands that, these whatever aliens or archons or whatever come from the same place, maybe not even interdimensionally, but maybe farther off lands. And that's where the whole, issue is that they're hiding that we're in a bigger place than we actually are, in order for people to keep on this heliocentric spinning around the globe, flying out to the moon, because like Elon Musk said, it looks so fake, it must be real. And so that was like a key. That was a key to hearing. But like, I don't know, and like, I'm not arrogant to say that I know what the shape is. We could be a spinning ball, just a lot larger than what they're telling us about. Like, I have no idea, but I just know that, they lie to us about many, if not all things. So it's hard for me to believe any official narrative.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm pretty much there too. Exactly. I just go with my senses, and then try to avoid the unnecessary conflict. And that's part of my talk about oppositions. That we have a lot of unnecessary conflict in our life, and if we would just face the necessary conflict, what is actually going to serve and help us grow and come together, like you said, work together, live together, be in some kind of harmony so we could support each other, then that's my dream.
Now, tell us where people can find you.
Sure. So if you visit bethmartins.com, that is my website. If I could quickly say also, I run a training where I teach people to coach in the tools of deprogramming and archetypes. So if you're one of those alchemists that wants to go even deeper with your own healing work and come out of it with a profession, then I'm going to be starting my next training in September. It's very intensive. It's big. It's the biggest transformation that I see anybody in my world make. You can also work with me one-on-one in private coaching, and I do courses periodically. I've got a Find Your Sacred Purpose course and a Primal Power course, and King Hero's Journey with an 8 archetype course. And then you can find all of that at my website, and you can reach out to me there if you want to talk to me. If anyone was interested to maybe work with me, but you don't really know yet, I will have a conversation with you, see if it makes sense that you could make use of this. Not everyone can do deprogramming work. And I say this to polarize that it doesn't mean it's not possible. It means in some cases not probable. And so you sometimes have to get kicked to the curb before you decide that you're going to do this work. Or if you're really smart, I'll just bait you with this. You're going to do this work before you get kicked to the curb. So you're ready if or when that would happen.
Or maybe even prevent you from getting kicked to the curb.
100%.
If you do this. And I think with what you, Beth, is saying here is that not everybody's ready. And you have to be ready. And sometimes people are only ready when they hit rock bottom, and that's the only way out. And you could maybe prevent hitting that rock bottom if, you choose to, by, doing some of this inner work that everybody, it's an inside job, but nobody wants to tell you about it. They say focus point every finger, every direction but yourself. And once you do truly look at yourself and how you can better you and what you're doing in this world, then you may never have to hit that rock bottom.
Bingo. That's it. When you prepare yourself for the worst often doesn't have to happen, like we talked about with birth. So yeah, thank you so much. It's been a complete pleasure to be here and have this conversation with you. Thank you everyone for the comments in the chat as well. It's nice to get to know your people.
Okay, any final thoughts, words of wisdom, inspiration, any last words?
Last words. Take it all in. Take it, allow everything to capture your attention, but know who you are and that you are not all that, and that you're free. Actually, in reality, you are free.
Love that. So let's all face infinity without flinching. May the source be with you and protection around you during this pivotal time in history. Knowledge is power. The more knowledge we all have collectively, the less power they have over us. For one love, one heart, one life. Namaste, everyone. And if they ever ask you to put on a breathing inhibitor again, Beth, you know what to say?
No mask, eh?
No mask, eh? Okay. Love y'all. You have an awesome week. We got another full week of interviews. Tomorrow is a content creator named Jack Talcott. He used to work at the Postal Service, quit drinking and tried to get his life, turned his life over to God, and he's been attacked and he's had a horrific, and he feels it aligns with, Jesus and his journey once he turned his life to God, or, all of a sudden he was attacked, and, so he's got an interesting story to tell. He'll be back, I think, for the third time on The Missing Link. So we'll see y'all. Bye, everyone. Bye, Beth.
Bye. Thank you so much.